to find itself in that kind of a situation where the images that was coming out of the U.S. Capitol was like something coming from Somalia, Iran, Iraq, Liberia, Sudan, and other places that are known for violence. But we have to realize that these situations or these things that happen at the Capitol was as a result of politicians trying to motivate or excite the bases on claims that the elections was fraudulent. Let me say this, for those of us who have worked at the polls, we know that it's next to impossible. It is impossible, let me say, for anybody to change the results of the elections, whether it's presidential elections or senatorial elections or house elections, congressional elections in this country. Let me just explain a little bit of what I've seen for the past 3 elections I served in. I served in Newcastle County as election worker, and I also served in Kent County as election worker, all in the state of Delaware in the United States. So I have a little insight into how these elections are conducted. First, let me say this. At the polls, you have the minority leader and you have the majority leader. So for the state of Delaware, the Democrats are in majority in the state of Delaware. So you have the minority leader and you have the majority leader at the polls. They are all observers at the polls. So in case of any issue that arises as a result of the voting, maybe somebody comes to the poll, the address is not correct, and the candidate name is not on the roster, and they got all the process they got. The 2 leaders will have to get involved in that process before the booth is open. We all have to sign, and we all go through the process. At the end of the day, the minority leader, the majority leader, all sign the paper that comes out of the machine, put it in the envelope, seal it, lock it up, and then it's transported to the headquarters. I'm not saying that people can't change the result digitally, maybe through the computers, but it's difficult because every county or every state has its own election. So for you to change the result, it's going to be entirely difficult. And that is why I agree with Chris Christie. I agree with Chris Christie. I hope he runs as a Republican. I hope that Chris Christie runs or contests for the next elections. The Republican primary is this year, if I'm not mistaken, 2022, or maybe next year. I hope Chris Christie runs to be the Republican nominee for the 2024 elections. It's not because he said the election was fair. He's not the only person from the Republican Party that said the elections were fair. A lot of prominent Republicans and even a lot of ordinary Republicans like myself who worked at the polls can attest to the fact that those elections were free, fair, and transparent, just as many other elections across this country. So for people to come and say the elections were, the elections were not fair, they were cheated and stuff like that, and use that, and other people use that as an excuse to go to the U.S. Capitol and target to not certify Joe Biden's win. will continue to be a stain on the democratic character of the United States. And those who are perpetrating those violence will have themselves to blame for the repercussion of the destructive ideas. And I said it before in one of my videos, I will say again, that the way things were going under during Trump's administration, how everybody, or most people, are afraid that the United States were going to go to a civil war. But people said, no, that couldn't happen. But look at what happened in the U.S. Capitol. Let's assume, hypothetically speaking, right, that the U.S. military had intervened on the side of Trump and said, the election was not fair, we are not going to, the president is not going to step down, and we're going to, there will be a rerun of the election, or we're going to recount, the president is going to stay. What do you think would happen? Let me just get my own idea what I think was going to happen. What was going to happen is we're going to be a split in the U.S. military. A split in the U.S. military. A big crisis would have happened. Who knows whether it's going to lead to civil war? And my own guess is it would have led to civil crisis. My best guess is it would have led to civil crisis, civil war. And America would have changed drastically than what we know today. It would have changed, not like into 50 states. It would have changed maybe to 100 states in the United States, or more than that. And why am I saying we're going to change to 100 states? Because as soon as there's a 50 state, firstly, let's look at a 50 state scenario. We'll change the 50 states because they're going to be like Democrat and Republican, boom, breaking away. Then within a Democrat and Republican, all the states are Democrat and Republicans, so they're going to be a split in those states. And then powerful politicians within these states were going to see how they could governance their own people and use the military. There would have been a big division, big crisis that were going to be hard to put under control. You know, we read about Abraham Lincoln's struggle to keep the United States as a united country. Some of us don't really appreciate the fact that that was a tough decision he had to take to keep the Union together. The Southern states, which were mostly Democrats, to make sure that the Union stayed together. 3 or 4 years, civil war, Americans died. The economy was destroyed. People got injured. Towns in Georgia burned. And you think what kind of devastation, destruction. And in Virginia, the capital of Virginia, when it got burned, and you talk about the death and the military people that were hurt as the result of the war. PTSD at that time was not known that, but there was great devastation to keep the Union together. I think you guys will agree with me on that one. So today's politicians have to realize that it is not impossible for their rhetoric to lead to the destruction of the United States. It's not impossible. It is not impossible for their rhetoric to lead to the destruction of the United States of America as we know it today. And what we saw on January 6, 2021, at the U.S. Capitol was a sign that the United States politicians, opinion leaders have to be mindful of how to carry on the affairs of this country. President Trump and his support, few of his supporters. You know, I hate for people to just say, you know, just the Republicans. 77 million plus Republican voted for Trump or voted for the Republican Party. And I would like to make the distinction. Partisans, most partisans, you know, people say, most partisans go to the poll, they vote party line. You know, you might like it or you might not like it, but that's how it is. Most partisans go to the poll and vote party lines. When I go to the poll, people say, oh, I go Republican, 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 Republican. That's how I vote. People say, oh, you got to be, well, partisans support the party, man. We partisans support the party. People say, oh, I'm a rational person. I got to, you know, vote for the president. Well, that's where the independent comes in. The independent, that's where they come in. To go to the point, oh, this Republican, this Democrat, this, I want to vote for, you know, the president I wish. But partisans, die partisans vote for their parties. The 77 million Americans that voted in the elections for Trump, the Republican, they voted for Trump not for what happened, but they voted as Republicans. And Trump is at the head of the ticket. So they support him, but not supporting everything he did. The violence that happened at the Capitol, not all Republicans supported him. Just few handful of Republicans, few disgruntled people, not even Republicans, supported him. But we as partisans has to be rational. We got to look at serving a union above our party's interests. We can't follow an individual. We don't want to be like developing countries where the leaders become so powerful and then we kill our institutions. We make our leaders so powerful that we kill our institutions that survive beyond the leaders. We kill the institution. What do I mean by that? What I mean by this is we try to say the elections, the people that conduct the elections, you know, officers were you know, they engage in fraud. And these are institutions that have been conducted elections before Trump came to power. These were the same people that conducted elections and said Hillary Clinton had more popular votes than Trump did, and certified Trump as the president of the United States of America. That's the same institution. Those are the same institution that certified the election for Bill Clinton. Those were the same exact institution that certified the election for Carter. And I guess those were the same institutions that certified the election for Ronald Reagan. And I also believe in my heart and mind, those were the same institutions that certified the elections for George Bush Sr. and Jr. We cannot start discrediting our institutions and want to chop power in the hands of very few people. If you have strong men, the strong man has all of the power that people wanted to do on that day. That the election that was certified by 50 states and almost, let's say, 400 some other jurisdictions and election offices, and you name the rest, that those elections were free, fair, and transparent, as it had always been in history. Well, for a few group of people to start beating the false, you know, start peddling false narrative that these elections were not fair, and want to halt the certification of the elections or the victory of Joe Biden, to the detriment not just of America, but democratic institutions around the world that look up to the United States of America as the champion of democratic values is troubling. Trump was one of the luckiest men. First time he ran for president of the United States of America. Well, now to leave power, he wants to bring the country down. Wanted to bring the country down. All the challenges, the courts all certified the results that were all fair. The elections were fair, transparent. We as U.S. citizens have to value country over parties and individuals. And I guess Americans have been doing that many times over. And we got to do that. Look, all of the fights that are happening all around the place. Democrat, Republican. We the citizens criticize it, but we support, raise money for some of these hardliners. People like Ted Cruz there. People like Ron Paul there. Raise the money now. Ron Paul raised the money a few days for certain things. They criticizing the COVID vaccine or how they call it, Fauci and stuff. Raising money on the backs of talking about things that are going to save other people's lives. We saw the Soviet Union disintegrated in 1991. 16 countries. The Soviet Union disintegrated in 1991. It is not impossible for it to happen in the United States. But my only hope is that the United States has gone through a lot of problems, and the people were able to stand up and on the side of what is right. And that's why I'm confident. That this country is going to stay united. But we should not try. We should never give up. We should not take for granted the freedom we are enjoying in this country. Like me, I became a U.S. citizen. I used to follow U.S. politics while I was back in Liberia from 1986, 1990, 1994, 1998, 2000 elections. This is 1992, 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2008, when I came to this country. Follow U.S. politics, not just on the presidential level, senatorial level, senatorial elections and all. I remember when Obama was running for Senate in Illinois. I followed him. So I've been following the U.S. politics. Michael Dukakis running for president and all the elections that have been happening. People around the world watch the United States, emulate the United States, emulate the United States example, as the beacon of hope for democratic freedom and values across the world. We should not take for granted that. Thank you very much for watching me. And you're watching me on Delmarva Point of View. Delmarva Point of View. Point of View is our YouTube channel where we discuss issues of importance. So if you're interested in coming on my show, let me know and text me on the number below, and we can do this. Before I conclude, I just want to say that we have to try. We all, as individual American citizens, have to do all we can to preserve this country that the founding fathers have fought so hard for. We got to discourage violence activities in this country. If the courts speak on the issue, if we want to change it, let's change it through the ballot or through the Senate or the House of Representatives. We cannot carry out mob actions like we are in third world countries. The situation that happened on January 6th should serve as a warning sign, and we should do all we can study the situation, why it had happened, what led to it. I hope the congressional investigation that is going on right now will come out with recommendations to avoid this kind of a situation, so that this country remains one of the bastion of hope, one of the refuge for depressed or oppressed people around the world. That we stand up for the values that preserve humanity, that we live up and we protect those who are oppressed in this country and around the world. That we stand up as a country, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. That this country that everybody looks up to, as the world policeman, will continue to stand up for the values that they believe in, that Abraham Lincoln and other people fought for, that Washington and other great guys fought for. We hope that people who are coming after will try to think of the country, look at the bigger picture. They're looking at the selfish or their own interest above the national interest. Thank you very much. I will talk to you next week. My name is Pico Conway, and you are watching Delmarva Point of View on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.